Chapter 13. Eli? This isn't happening, she thought. The room began to spin. She grabbed the side of the door for support. The puddle of blood seemed to grow brighter until it glowed. She looked away, then looked back. It had returned to its wine-dark color. Eli? She ran to him, knelt down on her knees, lifted his head in her hands. He stared up at her with glazed, unseeing eyes. What have you done? How did this happen? Beats me, he said, and started to giggle. What? Jenny screamed, dropping his head in shock. He laughed and sat up. Eli! Jenny's heart was in her throat. She felt as if she were going to be sick. He picked up the puddle of blood. It was fake, some sort of plastic. He tossed it at her, laughing hysterically, slapping his hand on the carpet. Why did you do this? Jenny shrieked, anger rising up from her chest, feeling herself losing control. How could you scare me like that? Easy, he said. He stopped laughing, but couldn't keep a wide, pleased grin off his face. Didn't you know how much you would scare me? Yes. That grin. Jenny wanted to wipe it off his face. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to make him cry, make him bleed. She hated him. No, get control, Jenny. Calm down. Just calm down. He's a little boy. He's only 10 years old, and he's very confused. Calm, calm, calm. No matter how many times she repeated the word to herself, it just wouldn't work. Hey, you said you wanted me to play a joke on you, Eli said, tugging her sleeve. I did not, Eli. That's not what I said at all. His grin faded, replaced by a look of disappointment. You said I played a joke on you before, but you were wrong, so I decided to play a joke on you now. But that was a horrible joke. You scared me to death. He laughed, still holding her t-shirt sleeve. That means it was a good joke. Don't ever do that again, Jenny scolded. To anyone. He picked up the plastic sheet of blood and rolled it around in his hands. I'm hungry, he said. I want breakfast. He isn't sorry at all, she realized. In fact, he's the happiest I've ever seen him. Come on downstairs, she said, finally feeling strong enough to climb to her feet. Let's see what we can make you for breakfast. He led the way out of the room, skipping gleefully to the hallway. Jenny stopped at the doorway and glanced back at the tarantula cage. All three of them were scrabbling over each other in what appeared to be a concerted attempt to get out. The phone rang at 4:30, interrupting their Monopoly game. Don't answer it, Eli said, shuffling through his property cards. I have to, Jenny told him, climbing up from the living room floor. It might be your mom and dad. You know, they're not coming home till very late tonight. You're staying with me? He asked, a worried expression on his face. Of course, I wouldn't leave you here alone, Jenny said, hurrying toward the phone, which had already rung 3 times. Eli had acted insecure all day, clinging to her, practically attaching himself to her, never letting her out of his sight. He's such a strange kid, Jenny thought. Sometimes he can be so cold and aloof, so grown up in a way, and today he's acting like a little baby. She picked up the phone receiver and heard loud breathing on the other end. A cold shudder of dread rolled down her back. Hello? Hello, Jenny. She didn't recognize the voice immediately. Jenny, it's me. She felt her throat catch. Her fear, she realized, was always right below the surface, ready to take over, ready to grab hold of her at the slightest provocation. It's me, Chuck, the voice said. She felt her anger push away the fear. Chuck, what do you want? She asked coldly. Eli looked up at her from across the room, startled by the harshness of her voice. Jenny, You hurt me, Chuck, she interrupted, the painful memory flooding over her, feeding her anger. Listen, I know. I just need to talk to you. His voice trembled with emotion. She realized she didn't care. Chuck, have you been following me around? She demanded. He didn't reply. Well, have you? Have you been spying on me? Still no reply. You really hurt me, Chuck. I know. Stop calling me, she was shouting now, probably upsetting Eli, but she didn't care. She couldn't help herself. I mean it. Stop spying on me and stop calling me. Now, wait just a minute, Jenny. Don't ever call me again. She slammed down the receiver. Keeping her back to Eli, she stood in front of the phone, trying to calm down, taking deep breaths, waiting for her heartbeat to return to normal. I shouldn't have yelled like that, she thought. I didn't want to alarm Eli. He's been so strange and insecure all day. She turned around to face him, prepared for his questions, prepared to try to deal with his confusion and anxiety. To Jenny's surprise, he had a smile on his face. "You landed on Park Place," he said. "You have to pay me." The rest of the day went smoothly. Jenny put a frozen pizza in the oven for dinner. Eli ate 2 slices hungrily, even though he complained that it was too tomatoey. Then he ran up his room to work on his computer. Jenny sat on the sofa by the living room window, staring at the front yard as the sky faded from pink to gray and then to black. The darkness seems to renew her fears, bring them out from their hiding place, make them dance across her mind. Staring out the window, she heard the frightening whispers again. "I'm back. Company's coming." Who could it be? Who was trying to terrorize her? Who knew those words, those exact words that held such terror for her? Chuck knew them. Chuck knew the whole story. A few other friends knew the story too. And of course, Mr. Hagen knew them. Crazy Mr. Hagen. Dead Mr. Hagen. "Jenny, I'm back." She stood up, determined to find something to do, to drive these thoughts away, to force the fear back to its hiding place, when she heard the knock on the front door. A hard, forceful knock that caused her to cry out in alarm. The knock repeated, louder. She stepped into the front hallway. "Who's there?" she asked, unable to keep her voice from trembling. Chapter 14. Jenny pulled open the front door. "Hi, Jenny." She stared at Rick and Claire as if she didn't recognize them. "Hey, what are you two doing here?" Rick stepped past her into the hallway. "Some greeting," he muttered. Claire held out a package of M&Ms and dropped some in Jenny's hand. "Your mom told us you were here," she said, following Rick into the house. "Hey, not bad," Rick said, admiring the living room. "How's it going?" Claire asked, around a mouthful of candy. "Not bad," Jenny said uncertainly. "We had a bad incident this morning, but—" "Where's the little spaz?" Rick asked, looking around the living room. "Don't call him that, whatever you do," Jenny warned. She suddenly realized she had become as frightened of Eli as his parents were. "I love little spazzes," Rick said, grinning his goofy grin. "I was a little spaz myself once." "Now what are you?" Jenny couldn't help but crack. Rick looked hurt. He plopped down heavily on the couch. "Hope you don't mind us coming here," Claire said, bending down to scratch a scrape on her knee just under the hem of her tan shorts. "We thought you might like some company." "Well, I'm not sure it's such a good idea," Jenny said, feeling more than a little apprehensive. Her eyes went up to the top of the stairs, where Eli suddenly appeared. "Who were they?" Eli demanded, sounding suspicious. "There he is," Rick said, laughing for some reason. "Hi, Guy. I'm Rick." Eli ignored them. "What are they doing here?" he asked Jenny. "These are my friends," Jenny said. "Come down and meet them." "I don't want to," Eli said, shaking his head. "Well, then stay upstairs and meet them," Jenny told him. "This is Claire, and this is Rick." "But what are they doing here?" Eli repeated, whining. "They came to visit me. You're being very rude, Eli." "You like to play basketball?" Rick asked, grinning up toward Eli. "Want some candy?" Claire held up the envelope of M&Ms. Eli continued to ignore them. "I don't want them here," he told Jenny. "Eli, that's not nice. These are my friends," Jenny said impatiently. "I don't care. I don't want them here." "We're only going to stay a short time," Claire said, looking at Jenny. "Tough little dude," Rick muttered, pushing the sofa cushion as if testing it out. "It's my house," Eli said. "Aren't my friends welcome in your house?" Jenny asked, sounding more shrill than she had intended. Eli didn't reply. "Sure you don't want some M&Ms?" Claire offered again. "Maybe," Eli said, softening just a bit. "I'll bring 'em up to you," Claire said, smiling at him, and starting up the stairs. "Can I see your room? Jenny told me you've got a lot of great stuff in your room." Eli shrugged. "Yeah, I guess." Claire was definitely winning him over, Jenny thought. "You into Ninja Turtles?" Rick called up to Eli. Eli ignored him and, as Claire joined him on the upstairs landing, held out his hand for her to pour candy into. Then he and Claire disappeared into Eli's room. "I think the spaz is hard of hearing or something," Rick griped. "I think he was ignoring you," Jenny said, laughing. She sat down on the other end of the couch and tucked her legs beneath her. "Kids love me," Rick said, brushing back his dark curly hair. "They're usually all over me." "He's not a regular kid," Jenny said. "If I ever talked to company like that, my parents would really come down on me," Rick said. "I don't think Eli gets punished too much," Jenny replied, whispering in case Eli was listening. I don't think he'd react too well to being punished. He's very high-strung. He has an IQ of 800 or something." "Weird," Rick said. Then suddenly he reached over and took Jenny's hand. "Hey, your hand is cold." "It is? I hadn't noticed," Jenny said uneasily. He rubbed her hand as if trying to warm it. Then he slid over to Jenny on the couch and put his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. Jenny was so surprised, she didn't react at first. Rick had never acted the least bit interested in her, except as a friend. What was this about? His big arm felt heavy on her narrow shoulders. He leaned forward, moving his face toward hers, about to kiss her. "Rick, whoa!" She tried to pull away, but he had her pinned down. "Hey, stop!" He immediately pulled his arm away. She jumped to her feet. "What's going on?" she asked, more puzzled than upset. He shrugged. "Just kidding around," he said, but his face was bright red, and his hurt expression revealed he was more serious than he was letting on. "Rick, you and Claire and I have been friends," Jenny started. "Forget it," he snapped, his face still crimson. "Just forget it." He seemed really angry. Jenny didn't want to hurt him. She didn't know what to say. She felt very confused. Rick scowled and stared out the window. Jenny started to say something, but was interrupted by shouting from upstairs. "What was that?" she asked. Claire and Eli seemed to be having some sort of an argument. "No, you can't!" Eli was screaming. "I said no!" "What's the little spaz carrying on about now?" Rick asked, still avoiding Jenny's glance. Jenny started to the front stairs. She was halfway across the living room when she heard Claire scream. Then she heard the thud, thud, thud of someone toppling down the steep staircase. "Oh no! Eli!" Jenny cried. But it wasn't Eli. She reached the stairs in time to see Claire hit the bottom step, then drop onto the floor. "Claire, are you all right?" Claire didn't reply. She lay on her back, her eyes opened wide, her face still locked in an expression of terror, her neck bent at an odd, unnatural angle. "Claire? Claire?" Jenny cried. Rick was right behind her now. How did she fall? "I don't know," Jenny replied, bending over her unmoving friend. She grabbed Claire's shoulder. "Claire, are you okay? Can you hear me?" Claire didn't move. "She's unconscious," Rick said, on his knees next to Jenny. "She's knocked out." "Claire?" Jenny looked for some kind of a response, any kind of response. Then suddenly, remembering Eli, she turned her glance to the top of the stairs. Eli stood on the landing, leaning against the banister, staring down at them. Jenny gasped when she saw that he was grinning, his eyes twinkling merrily under the yellow hall light. Chapter 15. He was standing at the top of the stairs, just grinning down at us, enjoying it. "I think he was really enjoying it, Dr. Schindler," Jenny said, sitting up rigidly on the couch. She was much too worked up to lie back. "Sometimes people laugh or smile when they're nervous or scared," Dr. Schindler said thoughtfully, sucking on the eraser end of a yellow pencil. "What do you mean?" Jenny asked. "I mean Eli may have been very frightened. He may not have realized that he was grinning. It's very normal for people to have inappropriate facial expressions when they're under stress." "Well, Eli didn't look too stressed out to me," Jenny insisted. "There was Claire lying at the bottom of the stairs, totally unconscious, and there was Eli grinning down at us like it was some kind of a joke, or one of those slasher movies that he loves so much." "Go on with the story," Dr. Schindler said, putting down the pencil. "What happened next? Did you call an ambulance?" "Yes, I called 911. They sent an ambulance and some paramedics. It didn't take long for them to get there. I don't know how long exactly. But Claire woke up before they arrived." "She was okay?" the psychiatrist asked. "Yeah, pretty much," Jenny told him, fiddling with the sleeve of her t-shirt, pulling it nervously up and down. Her head hurt. She hit it pretty hard on the way down, and she pulled a muscle in her shoulder. That's what they said at the hospital. But aside from that, Claire was okay. I mean, she felt pretty shaky for a while, but she was okay." "And how did the accident happen?" Dr. Schindler asked. "I'm not so sure it was an accident," Jenny said, raising her eyes to see the doctor's reaction. He waited for her to continue, his face as expressionless as always. "I mean, Eli said it was an accident. He said Claire ran out of his room and just slipped and fell down the stairs," Jenny explained, still picturing the gleeful grin on Eli's face. "But when I talked to Claire after she got home from the hospital, Claire told me she thought she was pushed." "By Eli?" the doctor asked, leaning back in his chair. "Yes. She wasn't really sure. It happened so fast. but Claire thinks that Eli pushed her down the stairs. She wasn't sure. No, Jenny shook her head. But if Eli didn't push her, why was he grinning like that? What do you think? Dr. Schindler asked. I don't know. Do you think Eli pushed your friend, Jenny? I don't know. I don't know what to think, Dr. Schindler. Do you think this 10-year-old would deliberately try to hurt someone, maybe even kill someone? I don't know. Well, do you think Eli is evil? Jenny thought hard about it. Maybe, she said. How is your friend doing? Mr. Wexner asked, struggling to tie his necktie. She's fine, Jenny said, dropping her backpack on the hallway floor. She was wearing faded powder blue denim cutoffs and a sleeveless green t-shirt. It's sweltering out there, she said, trying to change the subject. Mr. Wexner turned away from the hall mirror to look at her. We didn't know you had plans to have some friends over. He tried to say it lightly, but it was obvious he was scolding her. I didn't plan it. They surprised me, Jenny said defensively, and then she added, it won't happen again. Especially since your son is a demented killer, she thought. She knew she was exaggerating, but she couldn't help it. She wondered if she'd ever be able to look at Eli again without thinking of the way he grinned down at poor unconscious Claire. Eli was pretty upset about what happened, Mr. Wexner said, giving up on the knot and starting all over again. He didn't say anything, but at that moment, Eli came charging into the hallway. He ran into Jenny, nearly knocking her over, and threw his arms around her in a tight, affectionate hug. Eli, his father started, surprised. Eli continued to hug Jenny, pressing his head into her waist. Jenny patted his head tenderly. Her terrible thoughts about him started to melt away. He's just a little boy, she thought. He's just a troubled, spoiled little boy. How could I have thought he was some kind of evil monster? I want to give you a kiss, he said. As Mr. Wexner looked on in obvious surprise, Jenny leaned down and Eli gave her a noisy kiss on the cheek. Then he let go of her and, without saying another word, ran up the stairs to his room. Eli is really taken to Jenny, Mr. Wexner said to his wife, as she entered the hallway from the back of the house. Really? She couldn't hide her surprise. I'd never seen him be so affectionate with anyone, Mr. Wexner said, and then he quickly added, outside the family, I mean. He's very sweet, Jenny said, still feeling Eli's warm lips on her cheek. He is? Mrs. Wexner exclaimed, staring at Jenny. Eli? Mr. Wexner laughed. You should have seen him. He's obviously nuts about her. What a display! A thought crossed Jenny's mind. Maybe Eli was being so affectionate because he felt guilty about the other night. Jenny scolded herself for being so suspicious. Maybe he just likes you, she told herself. The Wexners left a few minutes later, still talking about how affectionate Eli had been toward Jenny. Jenny went to the bottom of the stairs and, standing on the spot where Claire had lain so still, so lifeless, called up to Eli. What are you doing up there? Nothing, came the reply from somewhere deep in Eli's room. Want to play a game or watch a tape or something? Jenny asked. No, was Eli's curt reply. I'm busy. Probably pounding away on his computer, Jenny thought. She took a book out of her backpack and plopped down on the couch to read. Outside the living room window, a light drizzle fell. The sky was darker than usual, the blackness interrupted by gray-yellow clouds lined up eerily in straight rows. The rain, tossed by gusting winds, pattered in waves against the window, receded, then pattered noisily again. Jenny read for about half an hour, listening to the rain against the glass. She was reading Wuthering Heights, one of her summer reading books. Such a romantic book, she thought. Wish I lived back then. Wish I could go walking on the moors with a handsome young man dressed for the hunt. Suddenly realizing she hadn't heard a sound from Eli's room, she closed the book and headed toward the stairs to investigate. The phone rang just as she passed it. Startled, she picked it up before the first ring had ended. Hello? Hi, babes, the whispered voice. Are you all alone? Hey, Jenny cried angrily. Company's coming, babes. Company's coming. Her heart pounding, Jenny slammed down the receiver. She pressed her head against the wall and shut her eyes tight. Who was it? Who was doing this to her? People didn't come back from the dead. They just didn't. She forced herself not to panic, remembering that she was on her way to Eli's room. What was Eli doing up there anyway? Why was he so quiet? She tried to shut the hoarse, whispering voice out of her mind, to think about Eli instead of the frightening phone call. She reached the top of the stairs, took a few steps toward Eli's room, and then stopped. and listened. A voice. She heard a voice coming from the room, but not Eli's voice. Someone was in Eli's room, talking very quickly in a low whisper, a hoarse whisper. Jenny leaned back hard against the wall to keep from falling. Everything started to spin. The floor tilted, then appeared to float up toward her. Jenny had to force herself to breathe. Her fear tightened her throat, pinned her against the wall. It was him, the whisperer. He was there, in Eli's room. Chapter 16. What has he done to Eli? Is Eli okay? Holding her breath, her back still against the wall, Jenny began to edge slowly toward Eli's room. She could hear the hoarse, whispered voice, but couldn't make out the words. He's on the phone, she realized. He's whispering to someone else. She stopped just before the open doorway. Pale white light poured out into the hall. She could hear the whispered voice speaking haltingly now into the phone. Who is it? How did he get into the house? Where is Eli? She had to find out. With a burst of courage, Jenny grabbed the door molding, leaned forward, and peered into the room. Eli sat at his counter, his back to her. He had the receiver of his homemade phone to his ear. He was whispering hoarsely into the receiver, disguising his voice. Eli! Jenny screamed. He dropped the receiver onto the phone and spun around to face her. His face filled with surprise at first, then reddened with guilt. Eli! She repeated, looking frantically around the room to make sure no one else was there with him. No, Eli was alone. You scared me, he cried, his lower lip trembling. What were you doing? Jenny demanded. He didn't reply. You scared me, he repeated, quieter this time, avoiding her accusing stare. Answer my question, Eli. What were you doing? Nothing, he said defensively. Playing? Eli, I saw you talking on the phone. So what? It's my phone. Who were you talking to? Jenny demanded, walking up to him, standing over him, forcing him to look at her. Who? Why are you so angry? He asked, his voice growing tiny and frightened. I was just playing jokes. Jokes? Yeah, calling people, saying funny things. You whispered things? He looked away. She repeated the question. There was no way she was going to let him off the hook. I just said funny things, that's all. He shrugged. His tone turned impatient, irritable. Who did you call? Jenny asked, putting her hands firmly on the narrow shoulders of his t-shirt. Kids from school, he told her. Just kids I know. Did you call me? Jenny asked. He stared into her eyes as if trying to decide which answer she wanted to hear. Did you? She repeated, squeezing his shoulders. Eli, did you call me? Yes, he said, his face a blank. Jenny took a deep breath and let it out. Was this possible? The frightening calls? Was it really possible that this innocent-looking 10-year-old was responsible? Don't you remember? Eli asked. I called you late at night. You were the first person I called on my phone. Huh? Jenny realized she had read too much into his answer. Eli wasn't confessing after all. What about tonight? Eli, did you call me a few minutes ago? He stared at her. I told you. I just called friends. She stared back at him, but she couldn't tell if he was telling the truth or not. Suddenly, he reached forward and hugged her again, wrapping his spindly arms around her waist. He held onto her for a long time. Jenny couldn't see his expression. She put a hand tenderly on his shoulder, wondering if she had misjudged him or not. After a while, he let go and sat back in his desk chair. He looked up at her, his face bathed eerily in yellow light from his desk lamp, making him look pale, ghost-like, a strange smile on his face. Jenny, tell me about your other babysitting job, he said. The rain had stopped when she reached the parking lot at the Walker Mall. A steady stream of cars, pale beams of light from their headlights steaming in the wet night air, flowed out of the lot as Jenny pulled in. For a moment, she pictured the parking lot as a vast, dark ocean, and here she was, struggling to move against the tide. She eased the car past the closing stores, her tires splashing through the deep puddles on both sides of the lane. She slowed to a crawl. She passed by Mulligan's, the ice cream store. The last customers were walking out with cones. She couldn't see Cal inside. The store lights dimmed. She pushed down on the gas and headed toward the spot where they had arranged to meet. What was so familiar about those large green clothing bins, she wondered. She parked the car, cut the headlights, and rolled down the window. Such a steamy night. The air felt thick and soupy, Perspiring, Jenny opened the door and climbed out. A few dark cars dotted the enormous lot. Employees' cars, most likely. Jenny suddenly felt chilled, despite the steamy heat of the night. Why did this all seem so familiar? Lights shifted and flickered across the vast, dark ocean, making it look to Jenny like waves bobbing and tumbling as far as she could see. More stores darkened. The stream of cars exiting the parking lot slowed to a trickle. Jenny paced between her car and the green clothing bins. She felt nervous, fluttery, and couldn't figure out why. I should have met Cal at the ice cream store, she thought, her eyes surveying the empty lot. I don't know why he wanted me to meet him in this remote corner. She squeezed the sides of her hair, wet from the humid air. I must look like a mess, she thought. Where is Cal? He probably had to clean up after the store closed. I could use an ice cream cone right now, she thought, or maybe a sundae. Cal, where are you? She called aloud. More store lights darkened. The waves of the parking lot seemed to toss as the light changed. Footsteps. Jenny heard the splash of shoes through the puddles, the thud of feet hurrying across the wet pavement. Someone is running toward me. And in that instant, the dream returned. She suddenly remembered it all, waiting in this corner of the parking lot, pacing back and forth under the yellow street lamp, peering out through the darkness, waiting. And then the hand reaching out from the clothing bin, the odorous, decayed form pulling itself out, slogging toward her. Mr. Hagen, back from the dead, back to get his revenge on her. It all came back to her. She could see it so vividly and feel the fear, fresh, paralyzing fear. Here she was again, in this very same parking lot, in this very same spot, in the very same dream, and the footsteps grew louder, faster. Wake up, Jenny. He's coming after you. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Only this time it wasn't a dream. This time she couldn't wake up from it. This time it was real. She uttered a desperate cry and started to run. Chapter 17. Cold rainwater splashed over her sneakers as she ran. The footsteps, steady, rhythmic, continued to come toward her. Which way? Which way? She asked herself, her panic causing her to stop just beyond her car. Which way out of this stream? The parking lot seemed to roll and tumble, wave after wave, and, once again, she was struggling against the tide. Which way? Which way? Wake up, Jenny. Please, wake up safe and sound in your bed at home. No, she had to run. She had to get away. The footsteps wouldn't go away. This was real danger. Fresh fear. I'll run toward the stores, she thought. I'll run toward the light. So why wouldn't her legs cooperate? Impulsively, she spun around to face her pursuer. He stepped slowly out of the shadows. Dr. Schindler, she cried. Panic and surprise tightened her voice to a shrill whistle. His face filled with surprise. He was balancing a bulging, paper-brown grocery bag awkwardly against one shoulder. He had a dark stain on one leg of his chinos. His white sneakers were wet and muddy. Jenny? Dr. Schindler, you frightened me, Jenny stammered. What is he doing here? She asked herself. Why does he look so nervous? He glanced quickly around. I can never find my car in these big parking lots, he said. Are you waiting for someone? Yes, a friend. Here he comes now. Dr. Schindler turned to see Cal crossing the lot, both hands stuffed into his pockets. He shifted the grocery bag onto his other shoulder. Hey, there's my car. Way down there. I see it now. A smile crossed his face as he pointed. Jenny waved to Cal. I really am cracking up, she thought. Why did I run from Dr. Schindler? Why didn't I wait to see who was approaching? It was the dream, she told herself. For a moment, I was back in the dream. You're crazy, crazy, crazy. The word repeated in her mind, drowning out what Dr. Schindler was saying to her. What? She asked. I said good night. He still looked very nervous and uncomfortable. I'm sorry if I frightened you. Good night, Jenny said, looking over Dr. Schindler's shoulder at Cal, who started to jog toward her. Struggling with the grocery bag, Dr. Schindler hurried off to his car. Who was that? Cal asked, running up to Jenny. My shrink, Jenny said, and took Cal's arm. Huh? What's he doing here? Buying groceries, I guess, Jenny said, watching Dr. Schindler's dark sob glide away toward the exit. You okay? Cal was studying her face intently. He scared me, that's all. I mean, I don't know, Jenny said, feeling frightened again, feeling not in control. feeling as if she might burst into tears or start screaming. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I had a dream and it sort of came true, she told Cal, realizing that it wasn't much of an explanation. Want to go somewhere and talk? Cal asked tenderly, slipping his arm around her shoulder. He smelled of ice cream, chocolate, strawberry. Yes. She decided she wanted to tell him everything. Everything that was happening to her. The threats, the cold whispered threats from the man she had sent to the grave. Yes, she said, I'm in trouble, kind of. He held the car door open for her. I'm a good listener, he said softly. I've been in trouble too. She turned and studied his face, shadowy in the dim yellow light. The scar on his chin suddenly seemed deep and dangerous. What kind of trouble? She asked. He shrugged in reply and closed her car door. They drove to a Wendy's on the south side, empty except for 3 sullen teenagers in a front booth and an old man sleeping over a cup of coffee. Jenny led Cal to a table against the back wall, and over French fries and Cokes, told him the story from the beginning, starting with the night she went to work babysitting for the Hagans. She told him about the attacks on babysitters all over town. She told him about the frightening telephone threats she began to receive. She told him how it was Mr. Hagan who made the threats, who attacked the babysitters. She told him about the terrifying night when Mr. Hagan forced her to the rock quarry outside town, where he had planned to kill her and had ended up dead himself, plunging over the side to the rocks below. She told him about the new phone calls, about the whispered voice so filled with menace, the whispered threat, Jenny, I'm back. Jenny, company's coming. She told him about Chuck's violent temper, about how Chuck was the only other person who knew Mr. Hagan's exact words to her. And she told him about Eli, what a strange boy he was, and how she had caught him making furtive, whispered phone calls. She started to tell Cal about finding the dead tarantula in her bag when she realized who it was who was trying to terrify her. It came to Jenny in a flash. She stopped in mid-sentence, her mouth dropped open, her dark eyes growing wide. She had solved the mystery.